Welcome to Wildcat Science with Mrs. Haugo. This is Human Biology, Chapter 8, Part 7. And we are talking about the muscular system, and we are going to be working on the muscles of the hips and the legs today. Okay, so your leg muscles have quite a few muscles, and we're going to learn about the gluteus maximus, the gluteus medius, your psoas major, the adductor magnus, the gracilis, the sartorius, your hamstring muscle group, your quadricep, the tibialis anterior, the gastrocnemius, your soleus, and then two tendons, the iliotibial band and the Achilles tendon. All right, so let's kind of get an overview because there's so many of them. We should talk about what they do. That could probably help you out. So you have your glutes, which is your buttocks, and then you have your hip flexors in here, and then also deep to your abdominal muscles. Your adductors kind of in here on the medial side. Your adductors you can kind of see there, and then this one. Your quadriceps you should be familiar with. Your hamstrings you should be familiar with. Your gastrocnemius is your calf muscle, and then the deeper one is the soleus hiding behind there. Okay, let's start out with the biggest muscle, the gluteus maximus. Its job is it extends the thigh at the hip joint. It also rotates the thigh laterally. It connects the ilium and sacrum and the coccyx to the femur and the iliotibial band by a tendon. And it is the largest muscle. So let's look at the name gluteus, so we know it is by the buttocks. Maximus, we know it's big. And it's going to extend the thigh at the hip joint. So if we remember, flexing your leg is when you bring it up. So then have your leg up and then touch your gluteus maximus and extend it, and you should be able to feel your gluteus maximus contract. And then also rotating the thigh laterally, that's bringing it out. So again, have one knee up and hold on to your gluteus maximus and then rotate your knee out. So rotate that thigh laterally and see if you can feel your gluteus maximus contract. So it's a very important muscle, the largest. It connects the ilium and the sacrum and the coccyx to the femur bone. And then it also connects the iliotibial band that goes all the way down here and connects past your knee. All right, deep to that is the gluteus medius. The gluteus medius abducts, AB, the thigh at the hip joint, rotates the thigh medially, connects the ilium to the femur, technically at the greater trochanter, and is important for pelvic stability. It prevents the opposite hip from dropping when walking or running. So if we look at this, again standing up, you have the gluteus maximus, and then if you go a little bit up and out, you can feel the fleshy part of your hip, kind of like back, but you can still feel those hip bones, not over here at your hip. Okay, so then it will abduct, it will move the leg away from your body, and then also rotate the thigh medially. So you're going to bring your knee in. So if you bring one leg up and then bring your knee in, your gluteus medius is being activated. And as we know, it is at the buttocks, and it is a medium-sized muscle. So this one is going to help prevent pelvic stability. Let's see if we can see my hips. So when you're running or walking, it's important because it helps prevent the opposite hip from dropping. So if we drop that, we're going to have problems with our hips and knees and ankles. We're going to have some injuries. So you want to keep that pelvis up. And if you notice, when you bring that pelvis up, you're abducting it. So you really want to have a strong medius, gluteus medius, so that you can keep that pelvic up, prevent it from dropping when your leg is up, like when you're walking or running. So as we know, it also connects the ilium to the femur. And maybe we can find a little picture of the greater trochanter because it really winds in there. Okay, let's look at another picture of the gluteus medius. We have, like I said, it connected from the ilium to the greater trochanter, which is this large bump on the femur. So not the head of the femur, but the bump on the side. And then also looking at the gluteus medius, which the gluteus maximus would be on top of the gluteus medius, and then the gluteus minimus is deep to both of them, and that is the smallest one, and it connects the hip to that femur, the greater trochanter, as well. Next up, we have the iliotibial band, which is not actually a muscle, it is a tendon. So it stabilizes the knee, and it's a tendon that connects the short muscle by the pelvis to the tibia below the knee, and it is essential while walking or running. So if we look at the name, ilio, we know that it connects the ilium to the tibia. So we can see here it goes up from the ilium. There's this small muscle, the tensor fascia latae, and that connects, ends in the iliotibial band, and then those all connect past the knee to the tibia, and that really helps in stabilizing the knee. And so this is essential. You use this every time you walk, run, standing, sitting. It's a pretty important tendon. Another interesting thing is that the iliotibial band is prone to overuse injuries, particularly in runners, called the IT band syndrome. And most often what happens is you get pain around the knee, and that is maybe at the spot or referred pain from the tendon moving over some bursa, which is, a fluid-filled sac, and then you can get bursitis there or tendonitis. So you'll get pain there or like above the knee sometimes, and that is often due to weak gluteus medius muscles, actually, and we can talk about some exercises for that in class. Okay, going back up, we're going to look at the psoas major. So that is, it flexes the thigh at the hip joint, and it connects the lumbar vertebrae to the femur. And at the hip, the psoas major joins the iliacus, and these two muscles act as one. And the psoas major is used when you sit, stand, walk, run, jump. And many people have tight or weak psoas major muscles, which causes problems like hip or knee pain. So as we can see, it is a large muscle, and a lot of it is in the abdomen, but it does connect, kind of goes through your hip and then connects underneath that first part of the femur, and it connects those lumbar vertebrae to the femur, and it is a very strong hip flexor. So anytime you bring your knee up, anytime you bend your abdomen forward towards the knee, you're going to be contracting this psoas major. So interestingly, it connects with this iliacus muscle at the hip, and then they act as one strong hip flexor. So they are literally joined at the hip. Like I said, you use it whenever you do anything. And a lot of people have a tight psoas, and we can talk about how you can determine if you have a tight psoas and some exercises you can do to strengthen it, or more likely just stretch it. Okay, so here's a picture of the psoas major, and then we're moving to the adductor magnus. So you can see that this would adduct, so it would bring the leg in, and magnus, it is the largest adductor of your leg. So it adducts the thigh at the hip joint. Also, it does a lot to stabilize your pelvis. So it is nice and stable, and it's not moving around and causing problems for your hips, knees, and ankles. So it is going to connect the pelvis to the femur on the medial side. So you can see that it connects the pubis and the ischium back there, which you can't really see, and then on the medial side of the femur, all up and down that. And it is the largest and strongest medial thigh muscle. There are other adductors that we're not going to go through. There's the adductor brevis and the adductor longus, which would be short and long, but not as large as the magnus. Another one of the adductors is the gracilis. So the gracilis is one of the other adductors, and you can see it is the most medial one, and it is very long and slender. So you can see it here, just right there, and then the adductor magnus would be back behind that. So it is another adductor, so it brings the thigh muscles together, and it also helps flex the leg at the knee joint. So you can see that it passes the knee joint and attaches to the tibia. So it is going to help flex the knee, so bring the knee from standing to bring your ankle up. So bringing your ankle up, well, still can't see that, but I bet you could imagine bringing your ankle back up towards your butt. And it is going to connect the pubis bone to the tibia. Like I said, it's the most medial of the adductor thigh muscles, and it is Latin for slender because it is indeed a very slender muscle. Okay, looking at the sartorius, it crisscrosses the front of your leg and goes to the medial side. So it starts at the lateral part of the hip and goes to the medial part of the knee. And it is going to flex the thigh and rotate the thigh laterally at the hip joint, but also rotate the lower leg medially at the knee joint. So what are we talking about? All right, so let's look at some things. So this will flex the thigh. So you're going to be flexing the thigh. It also rotates the thigh laterally, so bringing it out. But it also rotates the knee medially. So if you have the lower leg come in, so the thigh goes out, the lower leg comes in, and you may recognize what you may need to do that for. So you may, it crosses, well, let's get to this. You use it when sitting cross-legged. So if you do crisscross applesauce, you would be using the sartorius. Or let's say you were checking the bottom of your shoe for gum, you would have lateral rotation at the hip and medial rotation of the lower leg to check the bottom of your shoe. Okay, we skipped a couple of things, but going back to these two, it crosses the thigh diagonally and it connects on the ilium of the hip on the lateral side to the tibia on the medial side. There is a fun fact about the sartorius, but we are running out of time, so I'm going to leave on that cliffhanger. To be continued.